Hi, and good evening. My name is Stephanie Miele, and I would like to welcome everybody to the Voices Beneath the Waves series. The Women Divers Hall of Fame has been celebrating our 25th anniversary year and highlighting a member of the Hall of Fame each month for a podcast interview with me. So, without further ado, I would love to welcome Dr. Toni Carrell.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Toni. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure.
Yes. So I'm going to read a little snippet of your bio and then ask questions. Read a little bit more and then ask more questions because
Okay, that sounds great.
it's fantastic. Toni is an underwater archaeologist who has worked on sites from the Caribbean and Great Lakes to the Western Pacific and from World War II to early man. She served as the first woman regional dive officer for the National Park Service and directed the first archaeological documentation of shipwreck sites in Palau, Caroline Islands. In 1993, Toni assumed the highest elected position in her field, chair of the Advisory Council on Underwater Archaeology, and in 2007 was elected as an emeritus member. I know I pronounced that wrong. Wow. When I do the research before I interview everybody, and I come up with a bunch of questions that I would like to know because I've read about you, but I want to kind of know the why behind it. So being elected to these high positions, to being a trailblazer in your field, how did it start?
Well, I don't think anybody's career is linear. Mine sure wasn't. I started out in terrestrial archaeology in California. And it was at a time when, there was a lot of reservoir construction and other kinds of construction going on. And being just a lowly student, I kind of thought to myself, oh, I wonder what's going to happen to when these all flood, what's going to happen to these sites. But I just sort of, I wondered about it and then just sort of moved on with other things. And at the same time, when I was at University of California at Santa Cruz is where I did my undergraduate work. They happened to have offering a scuba diving course. And I'd grown up kind of by the ocean, spending a lot of time by the ocean, splashing around, and was kind of curious about the whole thing. So I thought, all right, well, I put my pennies together so I could buy a mask and fins and took the course. And I will say it was just myself and one other gal that was in the course. All the rest were these athlete guys. And so this other gal and I remember her very well, Kitty. She was and the two of us got together and said, we're going to make it through this course. And so we managed to squeak by at the end. And shortly then after that, there was an opportunity to go down to the Channel Islands off the coast of Southern California. And probably a lot of, people, a lot of your viewers, and a lot of the participants and stuff have been to the Channel Islands. And I have to say, I was absolutely blown away by how beautiful it was, the kelp forest and the Garibaldi, and my first shipwreck. And I saw that, and because I was already taking anthropology and archaeology courses at the university, I saw that and I just thought, oh my God, I have got to figure out a way to do this. And so that was sort of my very, very beginnings. And the whole what happens to archaeological sites once they're flooded kind of came around afterwards, because after a couple of years, when I was finishing up my undergraduate degree, I was looking to go on to graduate school, but then I heard about the possibility of a job with the National Park Service. And they were going to start investigating what flooding does in reservoirs to archaeological sites. So I sat down and wrote a letter and Was very surprised to get a phone call back and saying, yeah, we're interested. You know, you're a certified diver, you've got your degree in archaeology, let's talk. And then in 1976, I moved from California to New Mexico and became one of the people who was in the Submerged Resources Unit, the National Park Service.
Wow.
And so was there for a number of years. Working for the Park Service was amazing. Got to see sites, work all over the country, work in beautiful, beautiful national parks, worked on the Great Lakes, on merchant ships and paddle wheel steamers in different places, and passenger ships and lumber ships and all kinds of things in the Great Lakes. And then out in the Western Pacific, got my first taste of World War II and battlefield archaeology out there. Also managed to squeeze in a little early man stuff. So it's kind of, like I said, it's been kind of all over the place. You know,
Wow.
ships, everything. And then at one point, I decided I was ready to move on from the Park Service. That was a hard decision to make because I loved working for the Park Service. But I decided I was kind of stagnating personally, professionally, and decided to work on my doctorate, and was able to do that through the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. And so I was able to do that kind of on a remote basis because I had publications and things, and they accepted me into the program kind of on a contingency basis. So in 1990, I left the Park Service and joined Ships of Discovery. And with the condition that I could work on my doctorate. And so I was able to do that. And then I've been with Ships of Discovery ever since. So,
Wow.
yeah, doing all kinds of fun things with Ships of Discovery too. Working on slave ships, working in the Western Pacific on World War II planes, trains, and automobiles, as it were. So just the whole gamut of things. So I have been extremely fortunate to have a really varied career.
It in the biography, in your bio, it says Toni's World War II conflict archaeology research has led to numerous publications, and she is currently working as an editor of a second book focusing on World War II in the Pacific. Is World War II a passion point of yours?
It has become one simply because I've looked and worked on so many World War II sites, you know, most recently, even a couple of aircraft sites in the last few years for DPAA. But it just seemed that a lot of the World War II sites were kind of being ignored for a very long time. And as time has gone on, they are now considered historic resources, because there is in the past, it's been looked at if it's something older than 50 years, then it could be considered historic and therefore important. But like I said, my first taste of it was with the Park Service when we were out. I was out in Peleliu and Truk and Saipan and Guam, and saw all of the amazing shipwrecks there that relate to World War I and World War II, and just felt that this was an area that deserved more investigation, more research.
Do you have a favorite site, a World War II site that you just would go back to again and again?
Wow, that's a hard question. I think my most favorite one is the most recent one I've worked on.
Oh,
whatever that one happens to be.
Nice, nice.
I've just, like I said, I've been really fortunate. Every time we've done anything, it's just always been so engaging and so interesting that I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So I don't think I have a favorite.
No, that was a hard question too. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot. So shipwrecks can be, to your point, time capsules. It's almost like a flash in history. The ship is sunk. It is oftentimes a grave. From your perspective, what can a single site tell us about the world far beyond its moment of sinking? Does anything resonate with you when you're on those wrecks?
I think, well, it depends on the site, of course,
Mhm.
you know, because I was the lead field archaeologist for an excavation of a shipwreck that was lost in the late 1500s when LaSalle was exploring La
Wow.
Belle. And that was interesting from the standpoint of that kind of a time capsule from that period. But I think the World War II shipwrecks um, tell us more than just a battle happened here. Ships and planes and other kinds of craft that are involved in World War II or in the battles of the Pacific um, didn't just fall out of the sky,
Mm-mm.
and they didn't just happen by themselves. For me, the important thing is who are the people behind it? And you can kind of begin to get at that by looking closely at where they are, how they ended up where they are, who were the people that then lost their lives, whether they were piloting a plane, you know, piloting a ship, driving a truck, whatever it happens to be. It to me, it I can't help it, but it just pulls me towards the people, and I want to know more about the people and um, try to figure out what were their motivations, what were their fears, what were the kinds of things that they overcame and accomplished. And I guess for anybody who really loves archaeology, that ultimately is what it is. It isn't about the artifact or the object. It is about the people who made it and did it and what that whole bigger picture represents.
Absolutely, because these are human beings. These are lives lost. They tell a story or would like to tell a story, and it almost seems like you are the storyteller on their behalf because they can no longer tell that story.
Exactly. That's what anthropology and archaeology is fundamentally about, is telling those stories and bringing that past to the present and then sharing it with people. And I think if I know that I get kind of excited and carried away and I'm sort of babble on,
Wow.
but I also find that when I'm excited about something, that other people get excited about it too. And they
Absolutely.
can appreciate um, something that is can be very remote. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I can imagine that. We had a question up that popped up. World War II and aviation, two words that got my attention, especially as a former student pilot and aviation enthusiast. Flight 19 question mark question mark. Is that ring any bells to you? I was not exactly sure.
I think maybe the one was that the flight that went down in the Pacific.
Pacific.
Yeah, I don't know really very much about that at all. Um, uh, but yeah, it's a big story. Eventually, somebody will find it. Probably not because they're looking for it, but for other reasons. You know.
Is that how you have found any of your discoveries by potentially looking for something else and you like a happy accident? Has that ever happened for you?
Does happen sometimes.
Hmm.
Most of the time, um, particularly with World War II things, whether they're ships or planes, there's already been a lot of research done looking for them. And by the time I've been involved, the sites are known, um, but they're not necessarily documented or investigated. Um, the I know that for the work that I've done in both Italy, I misspoke, Portugal, and in Palau, the two aircraft that I investigated for the DPAA, the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, these were World War II aircraft that were lost. The sites were already known and identified. And then I was asked to go in and help to excavate and recover, hopefully recover, and we did recover, the remains of the lost service personnel. And in most cases, the sites are already known, although there is a separate field of archaeology, underwater archaeology, that involves remote sensing, and
Yes.
which would be looking then for sites and identifying them from there.
Huh. That's very interesting. And it leads me kind of down my next question. The ocean holds beauty and also tragedy at the same time. It's a wonder. It's a wonder, mysterious entity that draws so many of us to it. Does spending your career amongst wrecks shift the way you view the sea differently? From divers who maybe only see from its natural wonders, like, has it skewed your viewpoint or has it just enhanced it?
Ooh, good question. When I have to say that when I am underwater and working on a site, I almost don't see the rest of the ocean or the rest of the natural beauty. I'm so focused. And then when I get up on the deck, as it were, then my horizon expands considerably because I just enjoy being out there on the water. And there have been a number of sites that I've worked on where either the fish, usually it's the fish, every once in a while it's an octopus, will come working its way through the site, and you can't help but then notice it. I know I've had little teeny tiny schools of fish. When you have a mask on, your hair kind of is
Yep.
flying around, and they're chewing on my hair, or we're trying to swat them away so we can see what we're doing. But I think more than anything else, it has given me a very strong and very clear respect for the ocean, and what can happen, whether by accident or on purpose. But I admit I love going to aquariums. I love watching documentaries about the ocean and everything that goes on about it. I'm continuously fascinated by the natural world.
Yes, it has so much to offer and so much to be discovered yet.
Yes,
And
exactly.
speaking of discoveries, you're a founding member and vice president of Ships of Exploration and Discovery Research. It's a nonprofit organization that works to preserve, protect, and educate the public about our shared maritime past. How did that evolve? What was the impetus for that?
Well, we have it's a small field of underwater archaeology, and a lot of people know each other, and we have regular conferences. And at those conferences, everybody is always chatting and getting to know each other and talking about all kinds of things. And the people who originally set up or decided they wanted to set up Ships Exploration and Discovery Research were colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
And they were focusing on the Columbus era, Columbus period, exploration period of the New World and Columbus ships. And when I was ready to move on from the National Park Service, they expressed an interest in my joining their team. And because it was just getting started and it kind of just hadn't really been fully formed or anything yet. And again, I just said, well, if I can work on my doctorate, I'm in. And it was, yeah, go ahead, go for it. And so that's how it started. But it was a team of wonderful friends and colleagues who were at Texas A&M University, and they were already working on a very early, probably the earliest shipwreck in the New World, the Molasses Reef Wreck, which was early 1500s. And so I kind of, I joined their team, and then Ships of Exploration and Discovery Research was created and joined that.
So pre-show we spoke about more people getting into the field.
Mhm.
It's a specialty. Maritime archaeology, to your point, people know each other. If you were to give any piece of advice to a young person thinking about starting their journey in this field, what are a couple things that you would love for them to just keep in the back of their mind?
No skill that you pick up is too trivial. You know, whether it is, I mean, I mean, it's going to sound some obvious in some cases, whether it's boat handling or maybe some sort of technical skills related to diving. And I'm not suggesting that people go out and become saturation divers or technical divers or anything like that, but you know, a good basic skill set in those kinds of things. But there are um, so many corollary avenues that one can pursue to get involved in maritime archaeology. Maybe you don't really, you know, much care that much about, you know, excavating or something, but you really love the whole idea of the ceramics that are found or the ship structure. That was one of the things that I really was excited about, you know, in terms of wooden ship structure. But any kinds of corollary skills that you already have, maybe you're a great artist, maybe you're a great photographer, maybe you like reading books and doing research. All of those kinds of skills help in underwater archaeology, maritime archaeology, or archaeology in general. And the other thing I guess I would say is don't get discouraged. You know, just if this is something you really want to do, then stick with it. And any opportunity that you have to get some extra training or to volunteer or, you know, to bug people around you to go and see a site or see a museum exhibit about an underwater site or anything like that, do it. And it will happen if you really want to do it. Just don't be discouraged and don't give up.
Yeah, I mean, pathways are never linear. We both know that. And so for people that are just starting out or maybe changing careers, it's never a straight path. And the bumps come, they will come. But just kind of weathering them with the end goal in mind is always something that I think many of us keep in our back pocket. There's another question. Have you been to or studied the Edmund Fitzgerald?
No,
No.
that's a deep wreck. That's a deep wreck in the Great Lakes. And it's really a famous wreck, but
Yes.
I have not been involved with that at all.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So your career has spanned decades and you've been across the globe. Is there a project or a site that changed you? Which one maybe changed you personally the most? Something that was there one that you can think of that really hit home in a certain way or maybe challenged a viewpoint? Does anything stick with you? Does that stick?
Well, I think a couple of different things. One is that when I was working on excavating La Belle, and it's in the late 1500s, and it was an exploratory ship, one of the things that was really impactful to me was when we discovered during our excavation human remains. And, you know, kind of up to that point, you're able to think, okay, well, here's this or this, that object that's on a site, and you can kind of be impersonal about it. But when we found the human remains of one of the crew, it put a different spin on the whole site. And the other one is that, and it's related to this, is when I was working in Palau for DPAA, and we were excavating an aircraft. And it was a 3-person aircraft. You had a pilot, you had a turret gunner in the middle, and then you had the radioman in back, you know, because aircraft are kind of like that. And when we found the remains of the gunner, the turret gunner, I think everybody on the team was deeply moved by that, because we were extraordinarily fortunate to find that person's remains. We also found remains of the radioman and the tail gunner, two positions held by one person. And because it's so recent, and although the men and women who fought in World War II have all just about passed, what they sacrificed for the country was important, and it's important to honor them and honor their remains. And so that project, I think, from strictly a personal point of view, was probably the most impactful project that I've ever worked on, because I knew that those remains would then go back to their descendants and to their families.
It was a way to kind of enact closure for
Yes,
them.
yes. And the men who were on this aircraft were young men. None of them were married. They didn't have any children. So it was their lost uncle, or that we were helping to bring home. And so that, like I said, that's probably the most impactful work I've ever done, and it's been a true honor to do it. And I hope to have an opportunity to do it again, but I certainly was very, very glad to make that small contribution and to be able to use my skills as an archaeologist and as an underwater archaeologist to make that happen.
That's impactful, and that is, to your point, quite the honor. I mean, you're providing family with closure and proper burial,
That's
and
right.
it's personal. It's got to feel personal.
It does absolutely feel personal. Yeah.
So the team, you keep talking about teams. Is there a way that you choose to assemble your teams, or how do you typically go about
Hmm.
the team choosing?
Well, like I said, we all know each other
Yeah.
in that field. And it's a matter of, if somebody that I know has got a special skill that would really bring to bear on a project, then we always reach out, because Ships of Discovery is a small organization, and we don't do anything just by ourselves. We are team oriented, and so we'll reach out to other people and get them involved. There are not just fairly recently, in fact, we brought on Kotaro Yamafune, who is an amazing photographer, and he basically pioneered the use of photogrammetry to document shipwrecks. And we worked with him. A couple of years ago now, in Guam, we found, and this is where you're talking about discoveries, where we kind of did discover one of the few whaling ships that was ever been found in the Pacific in Opera Harbor. And I have a good friend and colleague who is an absolute expert in whaling ships. And so, I got on the phone and said, "Hey, we got this project going on. Can I twist your arm?" It wasn't very hard to twist his arm. So the way the teams come together, it's from who we know, what the project is going to be, what kind of special skill sets are required, whether it's remote sensing or photogrammetry or photography or excavation or just general knowledge. And we've been lucky. We've been very lucky to be able to work with some fantastic folks over the years.
How long does it take to typically put a project together?
Well, it depends. If the money lands in my lap, then it can go pretty fast. But if we have to apply for grants, and that's mostly what we do, we've applied to both the American Battlefield Protection Program and NOAA's Ocean Exploration Program and other things. Usually it's about a year by the time it goes through the whole application process. And then if you're lucky enough to get selected, then it's usually a year to 18 months before a project can happen.
Oh, wow. So you must be always planning ahead.
Got to be always thinking ahead. Yeah.
Yeah,
But the
absolutely.
other part of it is you've got to then follow through. If you don't write it up and get it out there, then you may as well not have gone. So got to build all that into project planning.
Do you have any projects or trips on the slate that you can talk about?
Nothing right now other than to finish this book.
So that was going to be my next question. Tell me about the book.
Well, it's got to do with the work in Palau, in Peleliu. Peleliu was one of the islands in the island hopping campaign of World War II when U.S. forces were working their way towards Japan. And a lot of people are familiar with Guam and Saipan and Kwajalein and Truk and all of these. Well, Peleliu was one of these little islands in the Caroline Islands that had one of the fiercest battles of the war. The loss of life on both sides was just horrific. And several years ago, we applied to NOAA to go and look at the offshore aspects of the battlefield. The terrestrial battlefield is really famous. It was featured in the series The Pacific.
Oh, yeah.
A few years ago, and one of the key actors in that was a Eugene Sledge, and he wrote a memoir about it with the old read on Peleliu and Okinawa, and it is a very famous war memoir. And anyway, so we wanted to go there and look at the offshore battlefield because nobody had ever looked at it. The terrestrial battlefield is very, very well known. We got the grant and we're able to go and do some surveying and look at the lagoon and the offshore reef and the nearshore areas and just immediately inshore where all of the defensive positions were set up. And in the process, we documented every element of the war, every element of the lead up to the battle. We documented the aircraft that would have come in first to strafe. We documented the landing craft that would have brought the Marines ashore. We documented some of the other amphibious vehicles that brought equipment and the troops ashore. We documented along the shoreline the defensive positions that were quite extensive that the Japanese defenders and military had set up. And so when we finished all of that work and we're walking around and just seeing the island as a whole, it kind of came to us that we really needed to do more than just write about tanks and trucks and aircraft. That, as I said earlier, these were people who were behind it.
Yeah.
And what were their lives like? Why did they do what they do? And how do these various things represent that? Because by itself, an amphibious truck, for example, really isn't anything but sort of an axle and some wheels and bits and pieces. But who were these guys and what did they do? And some of the other things, the pontoon barges and other things that were there, who were the Seabees that made this happen, who lost their lives trying to do this? And the same thing with the Japanese defensive positions. Who were these people? What were they fighting for? What were their reasons for being there? I wanted to really kind of focus on that.
Wow.
And that's what this book is about. It uses the thread all the way through of the archaeological remains to then try to understand these other bigger stories.
Wow. And you're connecting pieces. You're connecting, you're telling stories, you're taking a piece of history and bringing it to life, so to speak.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. So a lot of your projects involve firsts. The first survey in Palau, the first LaSalle excavation. What what motivates you to take these pioneering projects? And is there a motivation behind it?
I think my career motivation is in curiosity,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And some of the, being the first woman elected to be the chair of the advisory council or to do these other kinds of things was in some ways a happy accident. Sort of you show up and you do things and you get involved and you meet people and you have a sense of curiosity and willingness to participate, and good stuff happens.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you collaborate
Yes.
and talk to other people. It's where the diving community is small and the maritime archaeology community has got to be even smaller.
Yes.
So you're finding a niche inside a niche, which you guys are all in it together and you form amazing camaraderie and friendships. And we spoke pre-show, and Tamara Thompson, she's a trailblazer in her field, and you guys must have overlap. You know each other. It's such a small community, and to be able to offer an ear, or if there's an issue, like a peer group, because I think sometimes when you get to that level, it sometimes becomes lonely. And I've done quite a bit of research in peer camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
Does that speak to you at all? Is that a
It
topic that
does, and um, I think being a woman in this field has been challenging, especially at the beginning, because there weren't very many women, and I didn't really have any mentors or people that I could look up to at the beginning. But as I stayed with it over time, I did find a few mentors that they were just a couple of years ahead of me, and not necessarily even in the United States doing this kind of work. Um, but then over time, the field began to grow, and there were more women in it, and it was for me it was very easy to be able to then reach out and talk to them, because I knew kind of what they were already going through as early career professionals. And as we talked about pre-show, is that one of the things I've tried to do is to encourage and mentor other women. And now the field has got just so many amazing and excellent women who are running projects, running whole programs, developing whole programs, working in every aspect, in all the federal agencies and in every aspect of maritime and underwater archaeology. Um, it's a real fulfillment of the potential of women in this field, and as well as in biology and all of the other related maritime fields, but certainly in archaeology and in maritime archaeology. It's a real fulfillment of the potential of women to contribute to this field.
and it's got to be a load off for the men that have been holding it down. They have astute counterparts that they've got some help, and they I often wonder, and I look back, and one of my passion, not projects, but thought patterns, is think about all of the voices that have been silenced for numerous different reasons, or they weren't allowed, and how many discoveries we might have missed out on, but spinning that into a positive. But think about how many more expansions have been opened with trailblazers that are being the first in their field. Not that they necessarily were planning on it, but they set the stage. You set the stage, and that glass ceiling was shattered, and now people can climb the ladder, and it's the grit, the hard work, and the perseverance that we've kind of woven through this talk.
Mhm.
It's fascinating to see. And my undergraduate degree was in marine affairs. It's basically a setup for maritime law and economics. And there were, I think there was maybe 5% in the class, or that, of women.
Mhm.
And now looking back at my alma mater, I can see the professorship is predominantly women.
Yep.
And it's really, in the span of 30 years, how much change has truly happened, and it's encouraging. I know this is a 25th year anniversary of the Women Divers Hall of Fame, and they've put together some amazing scholarships and grants for this very reason,
Yes.
to elevate, to increase those skill sets you were talking about, whether it's with a camera, whether it's with advanced training grants. I think there is an archaeology one too. I might be misspeaking on that. But that there's a lot of money to be had and to be granted and gifted. And that's pretty special.
It is. And the whole organization, I have to say, it has been a true honor to be a member of this organization and to see it grow and to see the kind of support that it provides through its training and grants. And I just encourage any person who is interested in pursuing this, anything related to the field, to reach out, to check on the Women Divers Hall of Fame and see what training and grants are available, because it really is a remarkable organization.
It is. It's awe-inspiring to see
Yes.
the ceiling breakers, the trailblazers, and how many of them, when we talk and when we do these podcasts and the mentor panels for the associates. It's easy to become an associate, by the way. You can go right onto the Women Divers Hall of Fame website, become an associate, and that opens up a plethora of opportunities where yes, the mentor panels. There are a lot of people that want to give back. So,
yeah.
Yep.
There are a lot of great women in the organization.
Sally Ride, Krista McAuliffe. There was a large female involvement in the Apollo program. Space and the underwater world. They're two areas that are just not explored a ton. I mean, there needs to be more exploration and discovery.
And women can do it.
Yeah.
Women can absolutely do it.
1,000%.
Bring everybody along with us at the same time.
Yes. And so any parting words for the people that are listening, either live or through our YouTube channels? Anything you want to impress upon them as we close out?
I think the most important thing is, if you find something that you truly enjoy doing, even if you think it might be just beyond your reach, go for it. You can do, if you're willing to work hard and put aside some of the noise and distractions that happen, especially if you are a young woman. Just put it aside, go for it, and you might just surprise yourself how far you can get. And be sure to reach out to others who can give you a hand up and who can also be a sounding board for when you feel a little frustrated or a little down, because there are lots of great women in this organization who would be willing to do that. And I just say, take advantage of that opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And ask for help. So there are people that want to give back. So with that, thank you. Thank you so much, Toni.
So much, Stephanie. I enjoyed this tremendously.
And if one last thing, sorry, if people want to know more about the ships of exploration and discovery research, they can follow along your journey online.
Right. We have a We have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram, and we have a LinkedIn account. So
great. And one last thing, Deb, I'm a citizen scientist, not young at 69, but experienced and passionate. I think you're young.
yes.
Yes, their age is
Age is not a matter.
Nope.
Do
Agreed.
you want to do, just reach out, go for it. Just go for it. And what you have at 69 is a whole bunch of life experience that can be brought to bear to help and expand its discovery.
Yes, you can't replace wisdom. You can't accelerate it. It's got to be earned and lived.
That's right.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's been my pleasure.
Same. Thank you, everybody, again for taking the time to tune in tonight and listen to the amazing stories and accomplishments of Dr. Carrell. It was an honor to be able to interview her and understand her passion points and her pathways. As a reminder, the scholarship and grants have just been released. September 1 was when they opened. So I implore all of you to please check them out, look at them, and apply. And share. That's a big one. If you know anybody that is remotely interested in furthering their education, please point them in the direction of these grants and scholarships. And it's an amazing opportunity. And lastly, my guest next month is Dr. Allison Vitsky Salomon. This one's a personal one. This is it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Next month, we're going to light it up pink, and we're going to talk to her, her journey, her passion points, and how she got to where she is presently. So tune in next month. Have a good night.